Alright, what is going on, guys? Welcome in to another live stream here. How are we all doing? Let's take a look at what we have here on the charts. We do have a conclusive breakdown below support. So we're going to spend some time talking about that today on this live stream. What's up, guys? Well, welcome into the stream. Just going to give a couple minutes here for people to trickle in. What's up, dude? Welcome to the live chat. Welcome to the live stream. $86,350. That's where we are right now. What's up? Welcome into the live stream, everyone. Doesn't it look like a massive shelf on the daily? You know, I think I saw your comment saying, like, exactly that a couple days ago or whatever, but I don't know what you mean by massive shelf. Hey, what's up? You said, I know, what? Hey, Sammy, I know you said Clarity Act is not on my list of important things, right? That is correct. I still don't know what the Clarity Act is. But after the Clarity Act, it will be far harder to manipulate. I mean, that's good. Look, it's gonna be a non-event. Like all other, you can't. This is the thing, is that, like, save for something very big, you can't really regulate changes into crypto that are gonna affect traders and investors in a meaningful way. There's been a lot of smaller things, and a lot of people, the same way that they're harking on about the Clarity Act, a lot of people have really gotten entranced by the other smaller regulation, you know, bits that have happened over the last few years. But fact of the matter is, you know, the markets move pretty organically still. I mean, people don't really, I don't know, want to acknowledge this. That's going to be to their detriment. The markets still have, you know, relatively organic price actions, especially on larger time frames. So that's going to continue happening as far as I'm concerned. You know, they're not going to make a law to change that. Like, that would be quite, I don't know, strange. But just taking a scroll through it, how is Tesla at 477? How did that happen today? That's what I'm saying, man. Tesla's just looking too fucking good. Like, Tesla's not even doing what the rest of the market is doing. So, we're going to be breaking down what we have here. I see some of your questions in the live chat. We got a viewer here asking if this is a fake out. Welcome in. Welcome into the live stream, everyone. Smash up those likes. Let's get those likes above 50. Let's see if we can push those likes above 50 before we start with some of the analysis. Don't worry, I'm not gonna hold you guys hostage to that, but smash them up if you haven't done so already. Really do appreciate it. Let's see what you guys are saying in the live chat. Shout out to you guys tuning in to this live stream here. Great to see these familiar names. Shout out to Mr. Luis Nieto, to Delilah, Ricardo, Crypto Serenity. Jay Hula is asking, do I think this is a fake out? Yep, probably, but we'll get to that. It's more nuanced than that. Shout out to Morz Arabi. What's going on, guys? Welcome into the live stream, everyone. Good to see these names here. Smash up those likes if you haven't done so already. Let's get these likes up to 50. Let's push them as high as we can. Let's take a kind of another brief stroll through what we're seeing here in the markets, because this is the first time I'm properly looking at the charts. High or low so far? Yes, we're going to get to that here in a minute. Ethereum sitting at 2940. Litecoin sitting at 900 Satoshi. Like, a lot of the market hasn't really been knocked. Like, Solana BTC is definitely not looking too happy right now, but it's still in that range. That's totally fine by me. Like, XRP is barely moving. It doesn't look that bad, does it? You know, like, considering, oh, Bitcoin at 85k, you would think it would be worse. James says, inflows to exchanges are slowing. It's been a decline for a while, but it's finally coming to an end. That's great news, yeah. So, basically, you'd be speculating there that if there's less money hitting exchanges, there's less people trying to sell, right? That's kind of the idea. So, I mean, that's kind of promising. You know, that stuff is quite, you know, transient to me. It'll be like that, and then it'll quickly reverse because it's just so easy to send funds onto exchanges. So I don't really watch that, but I mean, you know, it is still real data. I mean, it does still represent, you know, larger shifts. So yeah, no, I think that's real to some extent. Ego says this is a textbook bear market. I mean, what's textbook about it, bro? Please tell me. I don't know. It is a pretty bearish. It is a pretty bearish trend, and breaking down here, that's not good. We're gonna get to that here in a minute. Smash up those likes, ladies and gents. Thank you all very, very much for doing that here. We're about to kick this stream up on X as well. Not that you guys really have to worry about that, because you guys are on the best platform here for me to monitor the live chat, but this is so weird. I am having a small issue here, very small, and I think it's nearly done. I just gotta rename this to Bitcoin crashing right now. Real-time analysis and deep dives. All right, and we're gonna send that off on Twitter in a moment. Does it pull? I don't think it pulls my live chat here. That's a shame. Textbook max pain. I feel it, but Crypto Serenity says the past year has been a bear market in accumulation against gold. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin outperformed gold this year, didn't it? Ego says, according to the last 3 cycles, it'll be like that until January 2027. Is the bull market for Bitcoin dead? Okay. Let's just stop beating around the bush and let me tell you guys what I think, because we got a lot of speculation here from all different sides of this arena, and that's totally understandable. But I got some takes here that I want to share with you all. That's why you're here today. So I'm gonna dive into them. Shout out to those of you tuning into this live with us here today on this Monday. It is the beginning of the trading week, and we have been met with a fresh Monday dump. Are we going to get some DGen cam going? Yes, sir, we are. Yes, sir, we are. Let's go ahead and get the DGen cam right here on the right-hand side. This is obviously going to be Bitcoin on the 1-minute time frame, so that if you're an absolute degenerate and you can't stay away from the minute time frame, well, you got something to occupy your eyeballs here on the right-hand side of the screen. So have at it, DGens. I won't judge you too harshly. That's the DGen cam on the right-hand side right there. And sitting at 85,900 right now. So we'll see where this ends up going. But let's take a look at Bitcoin for real here on this chart and break down what we're seeing. So we got, look, so we had this nice, you know, kind of diagonal support line. And we got this, you know, unfortunate breakdown just now. And, you know, I think that this breakdown happened in response to the S&P 500 opening and then kind of traveling down a tiny bit. You know, if we take a look at this right here, when did the Monday trading session start? Right here. So we got actually a big gap up, but then the whole day for Monday so far has been trending down. And obviously, you know, it seems like some of that weakness has just kind of bled out onto Bitcoin. And it doesn't take a lot for Bitcoin, right? A little bit of weakness really takes Bitcoin pretty far at the moment. And I think that's why we've seen this dump. Now, this is a pretty meaningful setback for Bitcoin in terms of this pattern, in terms of the structure here. This ascending triangle was good. It was sending Bitcoin into some really, really healthy places. But if we've now lost it, we've now given up that structure, and we're now no longer able to use that structure to be bullish, which is not good. That's not ideal for us. However, I don't think it's the end of the world. There are a few reasons I don't think it's the end of the world. And I'm going to start with, you know, kind of, you know, in my experience, you know, there's this like saying that happens in like FBI hostage negotiations, which is that, you know, if you get the hostage back in 72 hours, you're likely to, you know, like you're good, right? But if you don't get him back in 72 hours, you might never get him back. And I've always maintained that I believe it's something similar for the financial markets, where if you got a certain situation in the market, in this case, we got a support level, and we've lost the support level here. Now, I see it as we've got like a 72-hour window to recover this. And if we don't recover it within a reasonable amount of time, you know, then the tide shifts, and we're kind of going back to a bad place. Jivan says the algorithm is back. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, we are coming back here a little bit. Obviously, after YouTube banned the channel, it's been a little bit I can't speak, a little bit of a process getting the channel back up and running properly. But thank you guys for smashing up those likes. If you can help us hit our like targets here on this YouTube live stream, you'll help us push the live stream back out to subscribers who do want to see the content. As always, every time, you know, I ask them, they're like, yeah, I wanted to see your content. YouTube just doesn't show it to me. But smashing up the likes does help with that, so thank you all very much. So, you know, and this is where we're at, is, you know, if we're able to pull off a recovery here, then we got a good window to do it right now. But, you know, the longer we spend below this level here, the worse it's going to get, in my opinion. However, it's not actually that bad. As it stands right now, we haven't set a new lower high. I'm sorry, we haven't set a new lower low. We've still got higher lows in this market so far. If we do end up dipping lower, which I now think is quite likely, I still think that we could punch in another higher low, but I'm also open to the idea that Bitcoin sits in a lower low. And the reason I'm saying that is, well, if you were tuning into yesterday's live stream, you're going to know that we were looking at this kind of price range right here. And we actually, we did a direct comparison on what Bitcoin did previously with what it's doing right now to kind of give us an idea of what things could look like if Bitcoin loses support. And this is kind of what that looks like, right? If Bitcoin kind of does, you know, here what it did last time, you know, then at that point we're looking at potentially, you know, forming some, it's probably not going to be anywhere near this similar to what we did last time, but this is a kind of idea of how things might look, and we're already kind of starting to move in those footsteps here. So we're going to continue to keep an eye out for that here in this market. But if I go ahead and remove this, what I'm saying here as far as where I think Bitcoin can go is that Bitcoin is well known to tolerate 40% drops. And 40% drops bring it down to this yellow line right here that sits at $75,500 roughly. Okay, that's going to be a 40% drop for Bitcoin. That's going to be, you know, kind of... I mean, look, there's a lot of people that are, you know, like 4-year cycle fanatics and all sorts of different flavors of that stuff, where people are saying basically, look, Bitcoin has never, you know, failed to deviate from this trend, or Bitcoin has always stuck to this kind of characteristic, and that's why, you know, these people have felt like they can, you know, kind of strongly rely on that. And that's a reasonable, you know, flow of decision making. But I think, you know, where people really, you know, go wrong with this is that they're simultaneously, at the same time, they're failing to consider that, you know, we've actually got a market here which always sees 40% drops, you know, inside of bullish rallies. And that's something we've definitely spent some time looking at here on this channel. But, you know, if we go back to, you know, the bull market that started here at $3,100, you know, we got some pretty nasty corrections, like partway through. One sec here. We got some pretty nasty corrections partway through the bull market. And this one was 70%. Okay, it was a black swan. Maybe you don't want to pay too much attention to it. But this one here was 55%. And the market still set new all-time highs afterwards. So, you know, that's just the previous bull market cycle from, you know, 2020, 2021. But if we look at the bull market before that, 2017, well documented, guys. You know, you're looking at consistent, you know, 40% corrections happening inside of this bull market. You know, still maintaining very bullish structure with these 40% corrections. Now, granted, these 40% corrections would last maybe a month and a half. This one so far, you know, it's been quite some time, right? I mean, we're already up to, you know, 2 months pushing 3. You know, but obviously it's been a lot longer that we've been in a shit trading range, right? I mean, essentially we've entered this kind of like vertical accumulation range now for well over a year, you know? And so the market is really slow. But as far as percentage pullbacks, I mean, look, we start off this bull market here, and we're getting several steep corrections. This is a 50% correction right here. Here's another 50% correction. Here's another 80% correction, all happening inside of a bull market here. So, you know, what's really important for us to understand is if we look at Bitcoin in the modern day, and we look at the pullbacks we've seen so far in this market cycle, these pullbacks haven't been more than 20%. And when they did become more than 20%, they were only 32%, and we got that twice in a row. So far, we're down by 36%, but you know what? Dropping down by 40%, it's really normal if Bitcoin does that. And it still doesn't put Bitcoin in a particularly scary place, in my opinion. I think if Bitcoin dips down... Look, you're not going to scare me out of this fucking market. I mean, I want to make this really clear. If Bitcoin dips down towards 60K, 50K, 40K, none of that shit can scare me, because where are we in the world right now? We're going through... you know, the biggest fucking revolution of my lifetime, probably of your lifetime as well, because I literally think this is bigger than, I think this is bigger than smartphones. I think this is bigger than internet. I was trying to figure out, like, the AI revolution, what can we peg it to? What is it similar to? And it's intelligence, right? It's not just, like, the ChatGPT shit that you're using yourself at home. It's intelligence. You know, Palantir, the things that Palantir are doing now are the things that... you know, we were worried the government was able to do 20 years ago, you know, but obviously it was completely false, because governments are completely disorganized. They're unable to process information particularly well. Well, not with a company like Palantir. It's an intelligence revolution, and it's on a magnitude that the average person still has absolutely no clue about. In fact, the average market participant still has absolutely no clue about it. And we're not... early into this. I mean, we're very early in broad scales of where AI, I think, is going to take the world, but this AI revolution has been underway for a couple of years now. I mean, we're now at a stage where you can't tell if any image that you see on the internet is real. Nano Banana Pro, which anybody can try out, by the way, on Google's Gemini, you know, which is Google's ChatGPT. Nano Banana Pro, the image creator, the image editor, that shit is OP. That shit produces images that look like they come straight out of an iPhone 14 or an iPhone 15. It makes absolutely no sense. And so, you know, and so we're in this, like, extremely weird place in our timeline. And it's clearly a technological revolution. It's clearly a revolution that says we're moving away from legacy finance, that says we're moving away from even a cash-bound society, which, you know, many of you guys are not going to like. You know, that's neither here nor there. It's still true. We're moving away from even, you know, a heavy cash-reliant society. I mean, in this situation, with the way the world is headed, you know, with the direction the world is headed, are we genuinely seeing a sub-$100,000 Bitcoin for a particularly large amount of time? You know, these 2-year bear market theories, 4-year bear market theories, I ain't fucking buying it. You know, I'm not buying it. I don't see that happening. You know, I don't see that we've got the setup for that to happen right now. I'm looking at things like the stock market, which are so much more stable than Bitcoin, but so much more important than Bitcoin in its own chart, right? The stock market is going to give us a much better idea of where crypto is going to go than crypto itself, because the crypto charts themselves don't make sense, and they haven't made sense for a long time. But they're still, to some extent, pegged to the performance of the S&P 500. And this shit looks fantastic. Yeah, okay, we had a bearish Monday. We might have a bearish week. But this chart is incredible. The S&P 500 is consolidating at all-time highs, directly below 7,000 points here. And you've got every single traditional finance analyst telling you that this market is way too overextended, this index is way too overextended, and that things need to see a significant pullback at this point. You know, and they're not getting that pullback. The market continues to consolidate at all-time highs in the face of arguably an extremely bearish White House, an extremely bearish U.S. government. You know, like, what the hell's going on with the government right now? You know? I mean, they've got brilliant policy. Some of it's even getting codified to help crypto, which is fantastic, and we're making a dedicated video on that. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do that now. Smash up those likes, by the way, if you haven't done so already. If you are finding this content useful, engaging, informative in any way, definitely smash up those likes. And All right. I got about as much idea what happened as you guys. So, I don't really know what happened or why that happened there. Probably should just start re-recording here. Just making a new recording, so that's gonna be easy to kind of edit back in post. But yeah, I don't know. I get like weird Wi-Fi issues. Obviously, the Wi-Fi issues only happen when I'm live streaming. They don't happen at any other time of day because that would be a little bit too convenient. So I'm just kind of stuck dealing with this as it is now. But yeah, I'm just gonna give this a minute here. Let the live stream kind of pick back up. That's annoying. Can't seem to be able to do too much about it, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and just get back into everything, and you know, people can catch up with the recording later on. So where were we? Yeah, S&P 500. Yeah, things looking pretty sweet here on the S&P 500. You know, 6,800 moving sideways. You know, consolidating while traditional finance folk think that it's due for a pullback. They're not getting that pullback, and the more it moves sideways, the more it kind of corrects in and of itself. So I think that's pretty nice. Let's bring it back to Bitcoin, though. I really want to give you guys some of my key takes on Bitcoin here before I get booted off my Wi-Fi again. And you know, what we have here, I think, is Bitcoin, you know, again continuing to be illiquid, you know, and therefore moving in pretty, I could say, like, explosive ways, but ways that, you know, don't really hold too much value for the market, right? I mean, the market is kind of rejecting almost any price move that happens right now. And I don't feel like we're in a substantially different situation to where that can't happen again right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of chart, you know, price action that we've been getting a lot. And all it's going to depend on is if strength shows up in the S&P 500, for example. That's one thing that could, you know, potentially tip this. You know, and in that situation, we would potentially easily see a big spike up here for Bitcoin, you know, getting back into this range. And then at that point, you know, again, just like every kind of substantial pullback that we've seen since we dropped down to 80K, including the first one, it is these pullbacks that really paved the way for these markets to continue to rise higher. And so that's something I'm going to be watching out for, because if this does turn out to be another kind of, you know, just liquidation event that gets reversed, well, then we have punched in another low. And again, we're looking that bit stronger to break resistance. Capo himself, the most bearish bear in the world, you know, is very, you know, how do I say, like, unconvinced by this dump, just like me, and expects that this can get reversed. Now, I don't have such strong expectations that this can get reversed because it is truly, you know, a pretty bearish break for Bitcoin. Like, it's definitely, you know, a bearish thing that Bitcoin did here. So, you know, that's going to be something that Bitcoin's going to have to figure out, you know, how it's going to redeem itself from this, obviously. But, you know, I do think that nonetheless, this is a pretty sweet setup overall. And if we do just recover this, then, you know, we're really back, you know, in a very, very, very positive place. Really, you know, like I've been saying, this is going to be something that hinges on the stock market. Like, I don't see Bitcoin dropping below 80K in any substantial way. It can happen. I just don't think in a substantial way, without the S&P 500 also losing, you know, let's say 6780, for example, on this chart. You know, and in that situation, obviously, there's a pretty steep drop here for the S&P. If the S&P does lose this zone at about 6790, whatever, it is totally possible that we fall right down into the bottom of the 6600 range here, if that does end up happening. So that's going to be something to watch out for, because that is potentially going to be, you know, a pretty steep drop for Bitcoin. That could easily put Bitcoin below 80K at that point. You know, but as it stands right now, I mean, that's going to take, you know, a pretty nasty drop. You know, I've been hearing theories of tax loss harvesting, stuff like that. Obviously, everybody wants to book losses on their tax returns for the end of the year. I don't really, you know, put too much, you know, weight on that. I mean, that sounds like exactly the kind of shit you say when you're absolutely clueless, when you have no idea what's going on. So yeah, you just fucking stick your finger in your nose and you say that people are selling for tax loss harvesting. Like, I mean, I really don't think that that's gonna be. I don't know. I can't say, but you know, I mean, if we see the market dipping, you know, I would be hard pressed to imagine that a big part of that is because people just want to, you know, secure a loss on their tax returns. You know, that to me, you know, just doesn't sound like a realistic explanation for what we're seeing here. But hey guys, welcome into the live stream again. Apologies for that issue. Honestly, I do have backups, and the backups aren't working right now either. Isn't that crazy? So I don't know if it's gonna happen again, but I'm gonna try and make the rest of this live stream a little bit quicker to continue going through my thoughts here. If you are finding the stream interesting so far, definitely do me a favor and smash up those likes. Just helps us fight through the complexities a little bit here, but I really do appreciate it nonetheless. That's the S&P. I think that we're looking pretty sweet, honestly. I really am struggling to fault this right now. I want to go ahead and turn your attention over to Polymarket. And Polymarket's looking pretty fun. We're actually putting out a Polymarket course inside of BroFi very soon. In fact, it's already recorded. It's just yet to be published. So if you guys are interested in learning how to use Polymarket, if you want to learn some of my strategies on Polymarket, that is also inside of BroFi. And of course, you can get yourself inside by checking out that link at the very top of the description below. And that's where you can get inside of BroFi. And that is only $100. So pretty sweet stuff there. But, you know, here we are. With some of the Polymarket stuff, and you know, one of the first polls that I'm interested in is going to be this Epstein file release. December 19 is when he's compelled by law to release something, or maybe even everything. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen. But you know, we're now, you know, we're pretty close to the resolution on this poll. And it's still sitting at 65%. So this is going to resolve to 100 if he basically releases something that qualifies. And this is some information on what qualifies. But I do think this is pretty interesting. And I personally think that there's going to be something that gets released. I don't know which bet is safer, whether it's the December 19 or the December 31st, you know, bet. Both of them look like they've got pretty free money. I mean, I like this one a little bit more. I just feel like this is easier to win money on. You know, $800 in results in $1,000 out, even at 80 cents. I mean, that's not too bad. That's still a decent gain. You know, especially considering I think that, you know, the chance of something qualifying being released by the end of the year is pretty high. You know, he kind of has to do it. Tesla launching unsupervised full self-driving. This is a pretty interesting one. I don't think we're going to see this happening by the end of this year, so let's see what qualifies. So they must label it as full self-driving or an equivalent name. It must operate on public roads without a human present or without a human required to oversee its performance. That means either no one in the driver's seat or the vehicle operates in a mode where no occupant is expected to monitor or intervene. And then number 3... Tesla or any Tesla affiliated entity must make the unsupervised FSD capability broadly accessible either through a robotaxi, so it doesn't have to be in consumer vehicles, it can be in robotaxis that nobody owns, or inclusion as a standard or optional feature on newly sold Tesla vehicles. So, you know, this isn't going to happen by December 31 unless robotaxis qualify. This one's, the reason I'm saying this is interesting, by the way, is look, I know, like, how many of you guys are realistically really interested in this? Maybe you're not even looking at this. I'm seeing some pretty easy money here. That's why I'm interested in this. Now, granted, the spread is fucking dreadful. The spread is so bad. I'm sorry, the liquidity. I mean, there's nothing here. You can't put volume into this market until this market reaches the 90s. However, with that said, you know, let's say that we didn't have this issue. Let's say we're willing to buy up to, like, you know, 20 cents per share. That's going to be like a, you know, call it like a $600-700 volume that you can put in. You know, at those kind of levels. Let's just roll with this for, let's just go with, you know, it is probably going to be a little bit more like, let's say like 4,000 shares, you know, if I'm looking to put like that $700 in. And what's really nice is, well, we can do the math here. Actually, we don't have to. It's about 868 that's going in. But if this resolves to yes, it results in a $4,000 profit, right? I mean, well, the profit's going to be about 3,200 or 3,300 or whatever. So pretty sweet gains there, pretty nice profits. And what I think is really nice, 3,200, yeah, it is. What I think is really nice is that if Robotaxi qualifies, then this shoots up, and what does Robotaxi qualifying mean? It means Austin no longer having basically operators inside of the Tesla cars, right? Like right now they're running unsupervised driving, but it is supervised. There's a Tesla operator that has to sit in the passenger seat in Austin or in the driver's seat in SF in California. And these are the people that manage the systems, right? That have to press the pullover button if something goes wrong, or, speak to the head office or whatever. I don't know how it works, but they've already taken those drivers out in Austin, and that's public. Elon's been tweeting about it. So if this qualifies, that's potential. Did someone just buy this on stream just now? I think I just saw a price move. I don't know if that's me just imagining that. But no, I don't think so. But if that's what we're looking at, then yeah, I think that this is some pretty easy money here potentially. But also, I think we're definitely seeing something by at least the end of March, if not the end of June. And I think that's why these markets have priced in really good odds. And there's still good money to be made here as well. 175 going in turns into 250, if that money is correct at the end. I mean, it's still like a decent, near enough 50% profit around there at these kind of price levels, which is still, good money. Obviously, the problem is that it just might take a long time to really make some gains on that. But, that's something that I think is particularly interesting. So, look, I mean, this stuff is fun because everybody is an armchair expert on subjects that they feel like they've, kind of researched. And we get to make money off that stuff now inside of Polymarket. And things can get pretty crazy, right? As far as where things can end up here. On Polymarket, there are some pretty big swings. I mean, this is something that I think up until recently was pretty much a done deal, that 𝐿𝐻𝐜𝐻𝐿 was going to be, chosen as the Fed chair, but we've already seen this flip now, and Kevin Warsh is now, the number one choice here on Polymarket. And so that kind of, extreme in swings really produces a lot of opportunities. And I go into a lot more detail on how you can spot that stuff consistently inside of the Polymarket course content that we're dropping in BroFi. So that is coming out very soon, probably later today, if not certainly later on this week. That content will be dropping inside of BroFi. And this is something I think is really big. While crypto is a little bit shit to trade, Polymarket has been a lot more interesting. So if you want to learn about how that might work, then you can definitely get inside by following that link at the top of the description to join BroFi. And that's where you're going to be able to find that course content as well. Really, really cool stuff there. But I'm going to be about rounding this one off over here. If we have any kind of final questions, queries, thoughts, concerns, whatever that you want me to tackle here in this live stream, now is the time to drop them in the live chat. But otherwise, bringing it back to the charts here, just taking one final look through. I mean, Ethereum against Bitcoin, didn't really see a massive setback. It's kind of just back to where it was a couple days ago, so that's not looking too bad to me at all. Trump coin's seen a pretty nice drop here. Let's see if there's anything interesting brewing on Trump. I mean, this is a potential bounce zone because this is kind of where Trump bounced off last time, and it seems like that bounce is already starting to stick. But, more than trading a bounce, I'd be more interested in shorting a rip. If this shit gets up to $5.70, that looks like a potentially interesting resistance level. I mean, it's not the kind of trade that I'm, quite likely to take because it's just wick city on this coin. You're so likely to get a wick up here before it drops back down. So, that makes me feel like this just has too much risk. But, that's not going to be how everybody feels about this. So, but I personally, I think that's interesting. Maybe not good enough to trade, but interesting. Solana has fully reset, man. Solana against the dollar, is back down to 120 support, which is quite a powerful level for Solana. I mean, if Solana loses this level, it's lights out. At that point, I would also be pretty concerned, but I'd still have to tolerate a deviation. I would still have to tolerate a deviation that could look something as scary as that even, I mean, and I don't know when we're down here if we're getting the recovery, so it is going to be a big bulls move for me. to kind of stay in Solana at that point. But, crypto is a big bulls industry. The crypto is a big bulls game. If you don't have big bulls, you don't have much. So, that's just something that you got to bring to the table here, ladies included. It is 2025. You are still allowed to do that. But, Solana BTC, holding on sideways, not a big deal right now. Cardano, absolutely shot. Cardano against Bitcoin, not doing anything, which is pleasantly surprising. Binance coin holding completely steady against Bitcoin. It's basically a stable coin at this point, which is pretty damn impressive. And as for the others, yeah, there's not a whole lot that I'm super interested in. I like Aster anywhere below CZ's buy. CZ bought in at like 91 cents. This shit's now down to 82 cents. I still haven't bought any, but obviously at these levels, at least beginning a DCA is probably going to start making sense here. But really, my eyes, they're locked on the S&P 500. My eyes are on the stock market. I think Tesla stock looks phenomenal. It's broken above all of these highs here. It's basically about to set new all-time highs, so we'll see how this continues to play out. Other stocks seem like they're still muted. They seem like they're not quite ready to pop off yet, but they do still seem like they're in very bullish posture to be able to pull something like that off. So that's something that I'm personally very interested in seeing and kind of monitoring to watch how this might continue to play out here in this market. But ladies and gents, that is going to be me for this live stream here. If you have enjoyed this one, you know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. Check out the links to our BroFi here in the description. That is going to be the top link in the description where you can get yourself inside of this group. It is aiming to be a transformative journey. That's kind of the whole point here. We've seen some incredible results from the programs I've run in the past, and this is by far the best iteration of anything I've ever ran, so I'm really, really excited for this. Really, really important here. The whole point is you're stepping into a place where you actually learn how to do what you're doing with intention. We need to learn how to build positions with intention. We need to exit with purpose. We need a weekly plan that we can rely on. You're going to get my clear weekly outlook every week inside of BroFi, and it's always going to be a structured, detailed breakdown of my upcoming strategies. You get live breakdowns that highlight key market shifts, so we're putting exclusive content inside of BroFi, kind of like, YouTube videos that come in here sometimes, or just exclusive posts around the clock, normal analysis, text and pictures kind of stuff that's going inside there. So if you want to understand things a little bit better, this has been great for a lot of people. And then a disciplined set of traders that you're going to be able to interact with on the other side, inside of this group chat. That's going to be one of the most valuable aspects of this experience here for you. And what we're going to try and do with you is we're going to try and deconstruct, your approach to the market, or we're then going to reconstruct it in a healthier way. We're going to weather the storms together. You're going to be right there with me and a team of proven traders inside of that group chat. And then hopefully, with some luck, because we do need luck, but hopefully you start seeing some results as well. There's no guarantees. Trading and investing carry significant risk. You can lose all of your money. Keep that in mind here. But BroFi has been an incredible offer so far. Still in early access. Lots more content that we are still building out. Some of the most exciting things haven't even dropped yet. Me personally, I'm most excited for the Trading Journal app, and I've been in the loop on the development journey here. Obviously, it's pretty close to done. It's really now at a point where I'm nearly ready to start getting people to use it. So that's going to be restricted to just BroFi members for now. We might make that public at some point in the future, but this is really cool stuff. I'm very, very excited to see how people get on with it when they finally start using it, and BroFi members are going to be able to use it here exclusively. So really, really cool stuff. Check it out if you are interested. But of course, do keep in mind that this isn't a silver bullet. This isn't anything like a get rich quick or guaranteed thing. You can definitely, if you're terrible at what you're doing, you can definitely lose all of your money after joining BroFi, including, you can, of course, lose all your money before you join BroFi too. That's, for some people, that's just not going to change. But here, gold's looking pretty interesting, sitting at 4,300 right now. I really like this rally that gold has had. Probably explains, some of the weakness that we've been seeing perhaps here with the dollar, but also with the stock market. But I'll tell you what, if this gold increase is going to explain some of the weakness on the stock market, the fact that gold is up so much, meaning that people aren't speculating on stocks, well, I don't think stocks have gotten hit that bad. Stocks are still at all-time highs, and those are facts. Those are facts that are true regardless of how you actually feel about the market. That is still something that's undeniable. The market, the index is sitting pretty confidently still at all-time highs. And I don't know. I think that as long as we don't drop below 6,600, I think this stock market is looking pretty damn sweet right now. So there you go, guys. Those are my takes. Thanks for sticking with me through the weird, connection issues. Really do appreciate the love and support. It's been a brilliant stream once again. You guys already know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and we will see you all in the next